Hello there, Andrew. I'd like to play a game. And that game happens to be So You're Being Hunted.
Hey!
Oh, look where we are.
Here we are, everyone, in the land of Sir. Yes, so it's episode 336, everybody. In the previous episode, I restarted my latest challenge. I don't think you will have seen... well, actually, no, of course you won't have seen that yet,
No,
Phil.
the last thing it loaded was 333.
That's right, which was
our
annoying
big
things.
sort of
yeah.
facts and annoying things.
Indeed, that is correct. I can't remember what we did in episode 334, if you were joining me for that one. I don't think you were, actually. That might have just been me.
No.
But episode 335, obviously Phil hasn't seen this because it's not gone live on the channel just yet. But I made an attempt at the Brute Force challenge. Didn't quite go so well, so I restarted it in episode 335. And this is the second episode of it now. So basically, Phil, since you don't know what this
what's the
challenge
concept?
so the challenge is basically it's a fusion of two of your suggestions.
Oh.
So basically, no stealth at all,
yeah.
no crouching, which I just kind of did then, but never mind. No crouching, basically around the robots, essentially.
Yeah.
But also no distraction items either. So to get device pieces, I have to just go in there with guns blazing and hope for the best.
Blazing. Yeah, funny enough, I gave you these ideas a very long time ago, back when you were still living up north. Yeah,
Yes.
And that was like 3 years ago.
That was a long time ago.
Yeah, there was that moment where I had just a massive spurge of challenges that I thought up for you.
Yeah, you did. Okay, let's discard that empty bottle since I drank that stout just then, because we're not going to be using that. Okay.
Now, Andrew, what
Phil.
was quite significant about my intro? Why did I do an intro like that?
You did an intro like that because we've got an interesting topic of conversation based loosely on something suggested by a viewer. We are going to be talking about things horror related in this episode, aren't we, Phil?
We are talking about horror. Now, for people who may not be aware what I was doing there, because there might be some people, that is actually a famous line from the Saw films.
Ah, yes. You want to play a little game?
Yes, Jigsaw, as it's called.
Indeed, yes.
So what's our topic then, Andrew? What's the viewer
So
suggested?
the viewer suggested basically talking about horror movies. Now,
Who is the viewer? We should probably name him, to be fair.
I think it was Brandon Peters, if I'm
Brandon
remembering
Peters.
correctly.
So, horror-related stuff.
Horror-related stuff. So the thing is, I've not watched many horror movies myself,
So we'll start with
but
films,
you might have watched a few. So we'll sort of do this. We'll start with films, like Phil says, but we'll expand it out to horror in general, if need be. So, like I say, here's the thing, because even though I've played a fair few horror games on my channel, horror games that is, in terms of actual horror movies, I can't really say I've actually watched a lot. There's one at least that springs to mind for me that I have watched before, but it was actually a slightly more obscure one that I think came out in 2000 was it 2000 or was it 2002? I didn't watch it at the time. This is one that I watched years later, but the film in question was actually called Death Watch.
Death Watch? No,
yeah.
that doesn't seem familiar to me.
I think it's a bit more of an obscure one. It's about a squad of soldiers in World War One, British soldiers who come across like a German trench, but there's all kinds of like weird shit that starts to happen.
Oh.
It's an okay film from what I remember. It has a few sort of nerve-wracking moments. Probably, like I say, not one of the most well-known horror films out there, but I must say, horror movies, it's sort of not something that I really have watched a lot of, like I say, but Death Watch is the one that I can sort of remember from my teenage years.
Surely there's another one you can remember. Come on now.
I'm trying to think, because I know that some of the big established franchise ones like Saw or Final Destination, I've never watched any of those.
No. You know there's one. What happened? Yeah. What happened when you? There's a certain game that you played that you then watched the film, the first film for it.
Of course, Alien. Yes.
How could you forget Alien?
How did I forget that one? Indeed,
Yes.
I did.
You watched the first
that.
Alien film.
Yes, that is another one then that I can add to the list. Yes, so Alien, I've watched that one definitely.
Have you watched any other Alien films?
I know I've said for a long time that I'm going to, but I still haven't yet, and I need to. Alien
I think it goes in a funny format. I think it's not Alien 2. I think it's called Aliens.
Oh, right.
With an S, and then it goes to Alien 3.
Yeah.
And then there's like Alien Resurrection, and then obviously there's the latest one was Covenant, wasn't it?
Covenant.
That was released back in 2017.
Yes.
But yes, I was almost about to say, oh, that can't be the only one, because I know about that you told me ages ago about Alien.
Yeah. I completely forgot about that one, in fact. So yeah, I watched the original with Sigourney Weaver, and that was good. Yes, obviously special effects.
1979.
Yeah, late 70s movie. Special effects are a bit dated, but actually they don't hold out too bad. I think it was a good movie overall. Definitely got that claustrophobic, dark feel being on board the spaceship.
It is a classic in horror films.
Yeah.
Is Alien.
Indeed.
I have watched bits of it. I don't think I've watched the full Alien films, actually, the full franchise. Is there any other? Because I know you said obviously there's the main ones like the Saw, the Final Destination.
I've never watched any of those ones because I have to say those ones don't really appeal to me because I'm one of those people who, when it comes to like blood and gore and stuff like that,
Yeah, they're more like that.
yeah, I'm more kind of reticent about those ones because I tend to be of the opinion that blood and gore should be used sparingly, whereas I know with things like Saw and Final Destination, it's all about the sort of blood and gore and the kind of violent things that happen.
Okay, Mr. Hypocrite. But Blood and Gore should be. Yet you play some very violent video games.
Violent video games, but not all of those are specifically of the horror genre.
No, but some of them have a lot of blood and gore in them.
True, yeah. I'll admit, things like Outlast, for example, that was just blood and gore crazy. That was, and that was one of the ones actually where I thought that didn't really work in its favour too well. Yeah, I'm sure there's plenty of games I've played that have got blood and gore in them, but usually I do kind of enjoy them not because of blood and gore, usually because there are other elements
the horror
which
elements.
I did like.
Yeah. It's a funny. There are lots of people out there who are not fond of horror-related things because it is intended to be scary.
Yeah.
Things like that. But Alien. I should watch some Alien films. I really should.
Definitely do so.
Now, with regards to, I have seen clips and I've seen the various things because Saw, for example, oh my God, there's like a bajillion trillion Saw films.
Indeed, yeah.
There's like 7 of them or 8 of them, I think.
God.
Yeah, and there's even Saw video games as well. They did do video games based off the film. But yes, I have seen I have watched various clips of the various different traps. That obviously, because the Jigsaw Killer is the main villain of the Saw franchise. And some of the traps are really quite dark.
Yeah.
But Saw thrives on its extreme blood and gore.
I remember friends back in my college days who had watched them and sort of talking a bit about them, and it sounds like it gets pretty intense at times. Let's put it that way.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. One of the most famous traps was I think it's at the start of the one where she manages to escape it, but I think gets used again, and the woman actually becomes the main villain's sidekick after it.
Okay.
But she basically gets put in a sort of improvised bear trap mechanic that gets put over her face. And what she has to do is to find the key to unlock it before the time runs out. And in the room is what she assumes is a dead body at first. He's not dead. He's alive, and the key is actually inside his stomach. So she has to rip him open.
Oof.
She starts ripping him open, but she's fine with it because she thinks he's dead. But then he comes alive because he was only under sedatives.
Okay.
He's got a mask over his mouth, and she's cutting him open. He's going, and she's just looking at him saying, "I'm so sorry."
Yeah.
But she obviously got this thing, and she manages to unlock it before it, and basically, what it does, it snaps open the jaw.
Yeah, I think I may have seen a picture of that particular implement. Yeah, I think that's one of the kind of reasons why, like I say, I don't know, sometimes I look at those kind of films, I just think it's very much kind of torture porn, sort of. Yeah. There's another
similar one, the Venus flytrap one, which is there's spikes on the inside of this thing that comes in, and the guy who gets it has to find the key, and he's like, he doesn't know where the key is, and the Jigsaw Killer's like basically gets him to use an X-ray, and it reveals the key is inside his own eye, and he has to basically sort of get a scalpel and start peeling his eyeball out to get to the key to unlock it. Unfortunately, he's in so much pain that he doesn't do it in time, and so the trap gets him.
Yeah.
But it's things like that in it. And then Final Destination. That's more scary because that's about things that could actually happen.
Yeah.
Things like getting whacked by a train.
Yeah, probably the reason why they don't appeal to me is because it feels like the torture porn is kind of the focus almost. It's about, the kind of suspense that builds up. You're thinking, oh god, this person's going to get absolutely horrendously ripped to pieces.
Oh god, yeah. I mean, some of the Final Destination ones are just basically these guys escape death, but not death comes for them.
Yeah.
And you can just see it's like these things are a bit too whimsical to get it. Like there's one, the shower scene, where this guy's trying to. He's about to go and have a shower, and you can just see on the floor there's this water that slowly starts going through his tiles and getting closer to him.
Right.
And then as he turns around and he slips on the water. Yeah, that suddenly come up to him. Oh, how's that come? Because death's not coming after him.
Yeah.
And he trips on the water and falls into his shower, and the shower cord.
Oh right.
It wraps around his neck.
Of course.
And pulls him up, and he's like. And he slowly starts to choke to death, and just within a pair of scissors, he just can't quite reach. So you can see his eyes are starting to get blue, and then it doesn't get it in time.
Yeah.
That's one. But no, but that one's is all right. It's tame in compared to one of the ones I found. Just I couldn't cope with it.
Yeah.
It was a guy in a swimming pool.
Oh god.
And he accidentally dropped a coin into the bottom of the pool, and the bottom of the pool was like a drain. You know those drains they have.
The filter system.
Yeah, and he swam to it to try and get, and the coin fell down that filter system. And it's like, oh no! And this doesn't actually happen, but he tried to, as he started getting sucked in by the filter, and all of a sudden it sucked him in and pulled him, so he's basically sitting on the filter.
Oof.
And he was trying to pull himself off. And then the pressure system of the water was trying to, filter it out, but it couldn't because his bum was basically over the filter.
Yeah.
So the pressure kept going up and up and up to try and get to the point where it couldn't cope anymore. In order to get it, the filter system basically pulled his insides out of his arse.
Yeah.
And then smashed into pieces.
Oof, yeah. That's why I don't watch those movies, because I just feel like
it's just horrendous.
Yeah.
But a horror film that I have watched fully, which it's an old classic one, The Exorcist.
Oh, The Exorcist, yeah.
I have seen The Exorcist. For those who don't know, it's about a girl who basically gets possessed by a demon.
Yeah, the devil, whatever it is.
The devil, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, horror films and things I can take. There is a scene in that, though, that I just couldn't take, and I just still can't take it. It's the spider crawl down the stairs.
Oh, that.
Oh, God, I just can't cope with that. I just can't. I just don't like that.
Yeah.
It's the bit where it happens. Basically, Mum comes to tuck her in bed, and she's still being possessed by the demon. And then she goes down to talk to the doctor, and then you see her coming down the stairs with a spider claw back, and it's just...
Yeah, I was just going to say that reminds me of that one Amnesia Dark Descent custom map that we played. I forgot what the name of it was, but
was it the Rift?
With
the open mouth thing?
No, not the Rift one. It was it? Oh crap! What was it called? It was quite a big one, because the Rift one we just did one episode, but there was another one we did where we did multiple episodes, and there was like a girl in that who at times does a spider crawl sort of towards you. It's a one-off jump scare. Oh, I was trying to remember what that map was. That was a while back, that was.
I think The Exorcist was a 1980 film. But obviously The Exorcist is famous for a few scenes. One of the scenes being the head turn.
Yes.
Do you remember the complete 360 head turn?
Yeah, I've seen the clip of that, yeah.
You've seen a clip of that. And one of the other scenes, which was famous, is when the priest comes to try and get the devil out. And she's basically on the bed, and she basically, I think it's... After the turning head scene, she basically looks at the priest and looks like she's about to pounce on him, going, "Fuck me, fuck me, fuck me!"
That's it. Oh, jeez, yeah.
And then eventually, I think they do get the demon out of her, but at the end of the film, the demon goes into the priest and possesses him, but he throws himself out of the window to kill himself, basically, to get to try and kill the demon. And you think, oh, good, the demon's gone. But there's sort of sequel baiting at the end where the demon comes out and starts going elsewhere. But unfortunately, there was no Exorcist 2, so I don't quite know what happened. But apart from that, and I don't think there's any other horror films that I've seen. I'm just trying to think.
Of any off the top of my head. I mean, I've said this before in some of my videos on the channel, but I'm particularly a sort of, I'm especially into my more atmospheric kind of horror that relies more kind of psychological elements and stuff like that, rather than necessarily blood and gore. I know.
Well,
I have played.
Well, let's move into the video game realm then.
Yeah.
Because we're good with this. Well, obviously you've played a lot of horror games, and obviously, there's loads of it. SCP Containment Breach.
Yeah.
You've had Layers of Fear, which is the psychological horror.
Indeed.
Amnesia, The Dark Descent, and A Machine for Pigs. Those little one-off ones like the Convenience Store and Stigmatized Property. You've had an absolute load of horrors on your channel.
Indeed.
The big one. Now, is it? Oh, well, obviously your favourite. Is your favourite still SCP?
At present, yeah, my favourite is still SCP, just because you always get that kind of one horror, whether it's a game, a film, or whatever, where from start to finish, as you play it, you just feel that constant sense of dread. And for me, SCP was that game that had that feel to it. So that was why it remains my kind of standout favourite. I think, there have been horror games I played where I've felt that sense of dread at times, but SCP is just the one that really stands out as the one where I just felt it at all times, constantly. Yeah, which is a good sign. It's a sign of a good horror game, rather. What about you, Phil? Have you ever had?
What was that game that we could go? Was it called Pineview Drive, where we were in that house?
Oh,
and it was a bit horror. Yeah, that was a bit horror. No, I must say, I haven't really played many horror games, but the times I've come over, I was really impressed with Layers of Fear.
Layers of Fear was good.
Must say, yeah, especially when you'd go and then you'd turn around and suddenly there'd be like books that suddenly stacked themselves, and that famous scene in the kitchen where the fruit that was in that painting came out. Yeah. And then there's that scene in the basement where that picture just came. Yeah.
Layers of Fear had some real creative jump scares and things to it, and I think Layers of Fear is a prime example of how you don't need excessive blood and gore to do a good horror.
Yeah, absolutely. Which is why I recommend you should try the DLC, the Inheritance one, which is, I think, is supposed to be where he plays the granddaughter.
Yeah.
And then there's also Layers of Fear 2, which I know has had mixed reviews, but you can't obviously base something off reviews, but it's good to go and see it yourself.
Yeah. Usually I find not so much reviews by critics, but usually I find player reviews tend to give a better overview of
sometimes critics might be getting paid by the game designers.
Indeed, yeah.
So I definitely recommend you try the Inheritance DLC first, and then maybe get Layers of Fear 2.
Yeah, I sometimes find with critics' reviews, because they're doing it as a full-time profession, and they might not have time to play the whole game, so they'll be basing their opinions perhaps off a small smidgen of the game.
Or they rush through it.
Yeah, indeed. So they might not really get the full experience, whereas your player reviews, they might have been reviewing it after they played the full thing.
They can't do it sometimes. Like sometimes there might be good side missions, and they can't go and say, But those horror games, I'm just trying to think. Obviously, one that you weren't too enamoured by, of course, was Outlast.
Yeah.
Although there's obviously an Outlast 2.
It's not that I thought Outlast... I mean, I've probably explained this before. It's not that I thought it was an objectively bad game. It's just that, for me, it didn't really tick the right boxes. Like I said, just too much of a dependence on blood and gore in it for me.
Yeah, I felt that when I was watching it.
Yeah. And some of the jump scares eventually started to become very samey. I think for the storyline it was trying to tell, I don't think it needed to be as long as it was. But that's just my opinion. I know Outlast, there are a lot of people who really love that game, and
Alien Isolation was good.
Alien Isolation was good. Yeah.
The one issue that I did have was it had a little bit of problems with pacing. Like I remember at the start, it took ages for the alien to actually show up.
Yeah.
Like there was that one moment at the start with Axel who got speared through the chest, and then you didn't see the alien for the rest.
Yeah.
And then it came to a point where the alien was just all over the place and it's difficult to move anywhere.
Yeah.
And then the alien disappeared again, and it was just the working Joes.
Yeah.
And then it came back when you found the nest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing I do think though about Alien Isolation, because obviously when I played it did take a while.
Well, it was extremely laggy for you, as well.
Yeah, if anyone searches for my Alien Isolation playlist, just bear in mind I played it before I was on my present PC build, so it was on my old computer, and it is a very low FPS series, let's put it that way. But one thing I found out about Alien Isolation, because in my playthrough, it took a while before the alien actually became a proper threat, but apparently after that moment where Axel dies, I have a feeling that technically the alien can get you, And I was just very
I saw
lucky.
that.
Yeah,
I saw that in a TV tropes thing that it is available. Could get you in the vents or something.
So so I think I was just very lucky in my playthrough for quite a few episodes at the beginning that I actually didn't see it, because otherwise it could have actually got me if it wanted to.
Yeah.
But luckily for me, it did not. So I kind of did very well in that regard.
Some of the worst horror game. Actually, there is a worse horror game for you than Outlast.
Yes.
It was classed as a horror game. Living in a Glass House. That was. I think that was classed as a horror game, but that was horrendous. I mean, we started off. Remember the start of the game? There was floating stones.
Indeed. Well,
That was it. If you haven't seen it, definitely go and see it. But the start of it was just like floating stones, and I think we were both like, "What the hell's going on here?"
Indeed. The thing about that one is Living in a Glass House. For anyone who doesn't know where that is, that's in my indie horror games playlist of just like random little titles I find on sites like Game Jolt and whatever. So Living in the Glass House was, I think, probably based on the look of it, might have been sort of someone's kind of pet project, just a random person, and they probably were using a game engine that came with a load of pre-made assets like Unity or something.
Yeah,
because I'm sure
Unity.
From videos I've seen on YouTube from other YouTubers playing little indie horror games, I'm sure I've seen some of those assets that I saw in that game before.
So it probably wasn't properly complete.
Yeah.
Because we saw that, and then we just got through, and then we basically stopped because there was there was a moment where there was supposed to be a ladder down, but it was covered by a wooden board.
And I couldn't remove it. It was just, I was like, what, is this complete? I don't get it. Am I supposed to end it here? I'm not entirely sure. So there was that game, which just didn't prove very good ultimately.
Yeah.
But I say very...
Right, there we go.
Yeah, we just paused then, just obviously it was loading.
Yeah. So those I think you'll see those little horror ones you did, like the was it that train one?
Oh, the train, yeah. That was actually a decent one. That was.
Yeah, that was a good one, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was by a Russian indie dev.
That was it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a short narrative. I did about 4 episodes of it. That was a good one. Yeah.
I'm just trying to think, because obviously you've done a lot on your channel, a lot of horror games and things like that. Obviously, one of the biggest horror games. Well, it's died a little bit of death now, and we don't want to do it because it's just done to death on YouTube. Five Nights at Freddy's.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do that one because, like you say, it's so done to death. Lots of people have done it. And,
I should just tell you. Recently, we've had the PS5 showcase.
Oh right.
Which has been they've released it where the games that are being released and prices and when it's going to be released. Just so for everyone to know, the PS5 is going to be released in the UK November the 19th. For like USA, Canada, South Korea, Japan, it's going to be November the 12th, and it's going to be about £449.
Okay.
For the console. But one of the games that was featured in the showcase was a sequel to Five Nights at Freddy's.
Oh, right.
It's called Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's actually a lot of Five Nights at Freddy's games because Scott Cawthon, I think he's called, who actually makes that franchise. He did the original one way back whenever it was. Then he did like a Five Nights at Freddy's 2, or Five Nights at Freddy's 3. Then there was like
it's very popular on YouTube. I suppose that gives them a lot of press and money. Yeah. I'm just trying to think. Are there any horror games that I've actually played, like by myself, like not with you? I'm just going through my because I'm more a console. I'm just going through my game library in my head.
Yeah.
Horror. Horror. I don't think there is really. I mean, I'm playing Bioshock at the moment. There are sort of horror elements to Bioshock, but it's not full on. It's more action adventure.
Indeed. You get franchises like that where you have games which are not specifically horrors, but they do have elements of the genre
horror
to
elements. I'm just going through games in my head. Oh, I suppose some of the Tomb Raider, because you can get horror elements in there. Anything else?
Actually, a game which came out a couple of years ago, and it unfortunately never got. It was basically a demo, but it never unfortunately came to fruition. But I remember when it came out. I think it originally came out on like PS4 or something. this demo, and everyone was like really into it. It was like everyone was really excited for it, but unfortunately, like I say, it never came to fruition. Was the what was going to be the reboot of Silent Hill, designed by Hideo Kojima? Yeah.
Yep, the CT trailer.
Yeah. I've watched so many videos of that on YouTube, and it looked amazing. Like such a crazy fucking demo.
But it was during the time when Hideo Kojima had a big furore with Konami.
Yeah.
And he left, and is obviously doing his own Kojima Productions.
Indeed.
Which is his own branch. Yeah.
Yeah.
Such those, of course, those. I don't know why you haven't done those franchises. The big ones, the Silent Hills, Resident Evil. Those are the big horror ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe I should see if they're available on Steam or GOG or something.
Yeah. Those are the granddaddies, basically, of survival horror.
Yeah. But having said that, horror, I've got to play freaking Soma at some point. That's one I
Soma Inside.
Yeah. Inside. Also, I've got that Debris game, which technically I think is more kind of, well, I don't know if it's advertised more as action, but it definitely has very big horror overtones to it.
I know a little horror game that you played that we've missed out. Detention.
Detention. Yes, that was a good one. Yeah.
I mean, yes, true. Detention is a horror in itself when you have to go and sit in a classroom.
Indeed.
But yeah. So that's games. Let's move on to horror TV shows. Because there's I haven't watched a lot, but I have watched clips from X-Files.
X-Files.
Now that's obviously classic in horror TV shows. I have watched a few X-Files. I think I might have watched like maybe one or two like full episodes maybe on the old YouTube. I've just forgot. Sorry, go back to video games. There's like a horror video game visual novel, Doki Doki Literature Club.
Oh, Doki, yeah.
Danganronpa is sort of horror-y as well.
You could sort of say there are horror elements to Danganronpa, definitely. Yeah.
But yes, TV shows. I can't think of any. What else is there apart from X-Files?
I don't know if I've ever watched any horror TV shows myself, but there is a series which sometimes I've been thinking I would definitely like to try and get into, which I don't think is specifically horror, but some of the episodes of it I think probably do kind of draw upon horror kind of elements to some extent, and that would be Black Mirror. Have you ever heard of that one?
Yes, I have. Yes. Black Mirror, yeah.
Black Mirror, I think, for anyone who doesn't know, is, I mean, mainly it's more sort of sci-fi, but it's basically about sort of technologies and things like that going wrong and like weird shit.
Yeah, Black Mirror. Yeah.
But I think it probably does have that sort of horror element to certain aspects of it, which I don't know. It's a show which it interests me. I would like to maybe have a go at giving those a shot at some point. I don't know where they'd be available. Would they be on iPlayer or something? I'm not sure.
It could be, yeah. I'm not too sure. You might find it on iPlayer. I haven't seen it there, but if not, it might be on Netflix actually.
Yeah, I'm trying to think who produced it. Was it a BBC or an ITV or a Netflix thing? I can't remember. I
think it was a Netflix thing. Do you know?
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
Indeed.
Yes. There was. Oh, did I have? I thought I had something then. I can't remember. Oh, I've forgotten it. Related to a TV show.
Yeah.
I suppose you could think of a sort of horror-y anime, Death Note.
Death Note.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, it does remind me. Not specifically anime, manga. In horror manga, I've actually read a couple by Junji Ito now.
Whoa! We'll get to books in a minute.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a second, everybody.
Yeah, still. I don't think there's any more TV shows that I've really watched.
Yeah.
Apart from X-Files, maybe.
Yeah.
X-Files is really the thing. Yeah. There'll be a few like Black Mirror. Yeah, that's a good shout. That is.
Indeed.
Okay, well, we might as well move on to books then.
Yeah.
Horror. So, like you said, Junji Ito,
Yeah, so I did an episode where I talked about how I sort of gained an interest in those, and I actually did buy a couple and read them. Very unique, to say. I read Uzumaki, which is one of his sort of more well-known ones, about like a town that's haunted by spiral patterns. It's a really interesting.
Hang on, we've got to do a reference here. Back to the an old Wolfenstein single-player map that we did. Are you ready for this?
Yes.
Spirals.
There you go.
That's it. It was the Surfaces one that we did.
That's the one. Yeah.
That was the 3 maps in one where we did Surfaces, which just seemed to be a project. The Hot Talk and I think it was the that spirally like Super Mario Kart racetrack thing, which I think was all just projects, wasn't it?
Yeah. Indeed. But yeah, Uzumaki, that's a classic from Junji Ito, so I read that one. And I think the volume that I have for that one also came with, I think it was that one. No, actually, no, it wasn't that particular volume, but I've also read The Mystery of Amigara Fault, or The Enigma of Amigara Fault, whatever that one's called, technically, but that's the one where it's about, there's an earthquake, and then there's like, it like strips away the surface of a mountain, and then when it does, it exposes all like these human-shaped holes in the mountainside. And it's like people become obsessed with them, and it's really weird.
Strange stuff there,
yeah.
I know a horror book that you've read, which also could be linked to a video game as well.
Yes.
I don't know why I didn't think of it. H.P. Lovecraft.
Indeed, The Call of Cthulhu. Yes.
Yes, it's called Cthulhu. Obviously, that was Dark Corners of the Earth was a cracking game.
Yeah,
I still need to have a view of the 2017 game.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that. I've got quite a few H.P. Lovecraft anthologies, books just full of his short stories and stuff. Some of them are quite notable. They're very interesting because they're. Oh, didn't mean to shoot my revolver just then. I shot my revolver in excitement.
Well, hey,
There we go. But yeah, I've read some of, quite a few H.P. Lovecraft short stories and novellas. They're very good. Always worth getting your hands on. I think actually, I've probably read a fair few horror books actually, more so than movies or TV shows.
I've read one that I should have mentioned earlier because I've also seen the film for it.
Go on.
One of the biggest horror writers, Stephen King. Misery.
Misery. Ah, you've read that one. Yeah.
I've seen Misery and I've seen the film, and the film was very good.
Indeed.
Very dark, indeed. That.
Yeah. I'm your number one fan. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Annie, is she called Annie Wilkes? The
Annie
crazy
Wilkes,
hex nurse, wherever she is. Yeah.
Yes, for those who don't know Misery, basically the storyline goes, it's about a author who unfortunately has a car crash and is rescued, we'll put rescued in inverted commas, by a crazed fan.
Yeah.
Who basically kidnaps him and keeps him in the house, and she wants him to write the next part of the story.
Indeed.
But he tries to escape. He tries to get many escape, but obviously his legs are completely broken from the car crash, so he can't move.
Yeah.
So he tries to escape, and then there's one scene where she catches him and decides to chop off his legs.
Yeah.
Oof. Yeah.
Indeed. That's a big Stephen King one. I did an episode about Stephen King novels, I think just a few ago, didn't I? Where I talked about, obviously, I mentioned things like The Shining and Carrie and stuff like that.
The Shining?
Yeah.
Oh my God, now that's a classic. And I hope I don't piss a lot of people off, but I've not seen the film.
I haven't actually seen the film either.
Yeah, The Shining.
The film is sort of like must-have viewing for any horror fan, I think. So that's definitely a film I probably would want to take a look at, with obviously Jack Nicholson.
That's it. Yeah. Jack Nicholson.
And Shelley Duvall.
And that's basically about this family goes to stay in a hotel and he becomes crazed.
Yeah.
He gets possessed by the house basically at the hotel, who makes him go. And kills family. It's got one of the most famous scenes in film.
Here's Johnny.
Here's Johnny.
There you go.
Yeah.
Definitely well worth a watch, and definitely read the original book.
I think my granddad. I think my granddad has watched the film.
Yeah.
Because he always used to. It used to be funny because his name my granddad's name is John, right. And whenever he used to come into the house or come around the corner when we were younger, he always used to go, "Here's Johnny."
Oh, there you go. Nice
so
reference.
I assume he's Well, Stephen King's written a hell of a lot of novels, obviously. Now I'm going to give you a clarification because I remember watching that Stephen King, and you were like about the book about JFK. And you didn't know what it was called because you said it was. I think it was called A Year.
It was the date, the JFK one.
1963.
Yeah, I know the year. But it's the book with the book that Stephen King wrote about the guy who travels back in time to save JFK. It's like the full title of it is, I think, is the exact date that JFK was killed. So it's got the year, but I think it also has the day and the month in it.
No, it doesn't. Because I've got the book. Got the book. It's just called 1963.
Oh, really? That's strange. Yeah. I could have sworn the copy I had, it had the full date.
I've got it here somewhere, actually.
Yeah. I could have sworn it was in numbers. It was like number, year, whatever it was.
I think it's just 1963.
Oh, okay. That's... Wow. Why do I remember it being... Oh, that's strange.
Like George Orwell's novel,
1984.
That's it, 1984. Yes. But that's it. It, of course, it had two reimaginings. They did one film and then they did another film, didn't they, for it?
Yes, they did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's done well. Like I've said this before, you've made it as a true author when a good majority of your books have been turned into films.
Yeah, exactly.
But he's a fantastic horror writer. Is he still living?
He's still alive. Yeah,
still living.
Still alive and still writing, as far as I'm aware.
Yeah, he's a very good horror writer.
Yeah, I think his son's a writer as well, and he's co-authored a couple with him. Yeah. Indeed.
Oh, that's clever when authors do that. I know that Clive Cussler did a few with his son.
Yeah.
Dirk Cussler.
Dirk Cussler.
That's what he named his main character's Dirk Pitt after his son. Yeah, Dirk Cussler, and they collaborated together.
Yeah.
That must be. I wonder if that will cause a few arguments. You're like your son's writing this bit. Oh no, that's shit. Do that again.
Yes. How well do you work together, father and son team, and all that? Yeah.
It's why I'd never work with your family. Because it's like, again, it's like that thing, don't shit where you eat. Like, don't work in the same job as your family. Don't work in the same job as your significant other.
Yeah.
Because it's good to be a bit of away from them. I mean, if you're seeing them all day, and you cause arguments, and then what happens if you split up? And you're still in the same job. That's not good.
Yes.
Yeah. You want to have a bit of a break from them because it's nice to see them at the end of the day. You've spent that 8 hours away from them, and then when you go home, you're seeing your significant other rather than spending all the time with them. It can be a bit. It is a thing, unfortunately, can break up relationships.
It can. Yes.
Do we know of any other? What other horror writers are there?
I can think of one more who I've read who was kind of interesting. English author who I think was living late Victorian, early Edwardian period, called William Hope Hodgson. So he's obviously, quite old-fashioned in a sense, but he's done books, for example, like The House on the Borderland, The Nightland, The Ghost Pirates, stuff like that, which they're interesting examples of early 20th century fiction.
House on the Prairie.
Little House on the Prairie.
Not that one.
That's a very different kind of show.
Right, I'm just thinking, what other media do we have? So, video games, TV shows, films, books, and...
I was going to say music, but I don't know.
Music? Oh, of course. There is a genre of music called horrorcore.
Yeah.
There is a genre called horrorcore.
I don't really know anything about it.
I don't really know much about it. No, I think it's just like I think it's like weird, surreal music, which they put in that they gain from things.
Oh, actually, I do know another medium.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, of entertainment, which I have seen one example of something that could be loosely classed as horror. Theatre. Right.
Oh, theatre, of course, yes.
And the one in question was when I was in primary school, we once went to see a production of Little Shop of Horrors.
Oh, yes, that's
which I know is more sort of like a black comedy, but I guess you could sort of say it's kind of comedy horror in a sense.
Yeah. Oh, actually, consider that some of Shakespeare's plays might be like Macbeth.
Yeah, true.
Might be a
There's
bit
horror
horror-y.
elements.
Yeah,
with ghosts and things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, see, we're not thinking, and I don't think we did, because I remember we did one of the Q&As is what is your favourite in video game, books, music, and we didn't do theatre then.
Theatre, indeed. You ever been to the theatre, Phil?
No, not really, I must say. I'm not really a sort of theatre person. No.
Yeah. It's a funny old thing, really, theatre, especially, if you go to somewhere like London's West End, get in the big box somewhere and just watching a production.
Or Broadway, there's Broadway as well. Yeah.
Broadway, yeah.
There's other sorts of theatre. Yeah, so that's interesting. Horror is an interesting genre. Obviously, it doesn't appeal to many people because people don't like the scary. Oh yeah, they did those knock. Do you remember they did Scary Movie?
Oh yeah,
which was basically a piss taker. It was a piss taker. One of the funny scenes was from. Do you remember the masked figure from The Scream?
Oh yes.
The Ghostface. That's his name.
Yeah.
Ghostface. And do you remember there was a funny scene in Scary Movie where he did where a guy shot at him and he did the Matrix sort of thing. And then he did his back in, and he was like, "Oh, sorry. Could you just hold a minute? Could you just sorry? I don't be back in."
Oh,
yeah,
geez.
It was basically a piss take at all Scary Movies.
Yeah. Oh man, I forgot completely about that particular franchise.
The Scary Movie. I think there was 4 or 5 of them. Yeah, but it's a funny genre is horror because it sort of appeals to a sort of niche of people. Because I can understand why people not like it because there are some people who do get scared easily, and might not want to. want to take part in watching the films.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, it's good, Andrew. If you get a girlfriend, watch horror, they can cuddle up to you, can't they?
Oh, hey up.
That's what it's all about.
Yes. Oh, geez. Yeah, definitely. I was going to say, with horror, if it's got a good, compelling storyline and good atmosphere and stuff like that, I really, really enjoy it. So, yeah. There you go. So I think we'll start wrapping up here because we've been recording for a good amount of time there. That was quite a good discussion, about all things horror related.
Yeah, and I must say, viewers, please do things like this again. Keep them coming. Give us because give us topics to discuss. Absolutely, and we will discuss them if you want to know. I know we've done loads over the years that we've played Sir. We've done absolutely shit tons of topics. And I've obviously comes up with some of my own. You've come up with some of your own.
Yeah.
One of the funny ones is that Botnick's Harry Potter.
That was a good one. Yeah.
I've come up with some. Sometimes we do silly ones like that, and then sometimes we go through like ancient civilizations, like the one we did job interviews.
Oh yeah.
You've obviously done some on your own where you did like academic essay writing and things like that. Yeah. And sometimes you talk about your anime stuff.
There's plenty of stuff to talk about.
If there's other topics you want us to talk about, say it in the comments.
Yeah. I think that's a good idea, yeah. And in that case, let's wrap things up. So, Facebook and Twitter links down below, along with a link to my propagandist channel for anyone interested. Like, comment, subscribe, all that jazz. In the meantime, I'll see you for another episode of Sir very soon. Thanks for joining me then, Phil.
Thank you.
Thank you, yes. Goodbye. Everybody. Bye. Goodbye. Oh! Wow. Testing out the dummy. Wow. What's it called? Detective Turret? Wow. We've got defective turrets. Maybe I tried. Wow. Defective turret, that's what it says. I don't know why I said detective bullseye. Can I go through there? You didn't hit anything, defective turret. Wow.